Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about who you should pull in the 3.5 update of Honkai Star Rail. Now there's lots of options this update, less than the last update, but still we need to talk about it because it's important for you to know who you should pull. And today I'm going to help make that decision a little bit easier for you. Boys, if you enjoy this type of content, make sure to subscribe to the channel as it helps me grow my audience and it lets me know you're enjoying the videos. But nonetheless, let's get into it. And let's start off with one of my favorite characters in the game. It's Silverwolf. Now, Silverwolf, for a long time, was a T2 unit, or a B tier. She wasn't good. But recently, she got a buff, which improved her a lot. Turned her AoE into an ultimate attack, prioritized weaknesses, and just did a lot of things that made her a lot better. And now, she's actually a pretty decent support unit in a lot of teams. Is she the best support in the game? No, not by any means. But she's still pretty decent. Out of every character on these banners, she's probably the one I prioritize the least. But I don't think that makes her bad at all. If you just like her design and you want somebody decent for a team, I think she's perfectly fine. She does a lot of good things and still somewhat unique things in applying weaknesses, which, you know, some other characters can do now. But having an AoE ultimate, which does universal defense shred to everybody on the field, is super nice with a lot of the teams in the game. She has a variety of different characters that she can work with, and I think depending on the ones you have, you should either more strongly or less strongly consider Silverwolf. Silverwolf's best character, which she can work with, is going to be Acheron. Acheron best team is going to include Silverwolf as like an amplifier or somebody who can apply defense shred, and then also a Cypher or Jiao Q, and then also some sort of healer or defender on the end. But Silverwolf paired with Acheron is a very good comp. She also works well with a variety of other characters in the game. She works very well with Archer, for example. She can work with Casterist. She's actually super good in the Casterist comp now. Not the necessarily best support in the game. There are better ones, but she still works in that comp. She can work with Dr. Ratio, Cypher. She's a pretty universal support. She's a pretty universal debuffer who can fit into a variety of scenarios. Not to mention, she's super easy to build as well. All you really need for her is get her a little bit of effect hit rate. You don't even need as much as I have. You can get like 70% on her and you should be fine. And then everything else you care about is just speed. And you can get some crit rate and damage if you want her to do a little more damage, but it isn't necessary. So all you need, speed, effect hit rate, and then you're basically fine on Silverwolf. A super easy character to build, but definitely not the best one in the patch. There are better options, and a better option that's going to come in the form of Kafka. She is one of the better characters coming this update. In fact, she might actually be my second favorite character coming this update because I actually like her a little bit more than one of the new banner characters. But the reason they're running Kafka this update is because one, Kafka got a buff, and two, she is really, really good with one of the new units on the banner being Hysilens. The main reason you would want to pull Kafka is if you're getting Hysilens as well. If you're getting them both, then she becomes a lot more valuable. The whole point of Hysilens is to make DOT better, and she makes DOT a lot stronger, and we're going to get into her later. In fact, she's pretty good in some forms of the endgame right now. Like, they made the latest Pure Fiction all DOT, so she's actually really good in the Pure Fiction right now. And Memory of Chaoses, I could see them doing some DOT Memory of Chaoses coming up, considering the fact that Hysilens is coming out in a matter of a week or so. So I expect them to do a DOT MOC, and Kafka will probably be pretty good for that. But nonetheless, if you don't have Hysilens and you're just pulling Kafka, I would say she becomes a lot less valuable. But if you want her, you can still pair her with characters like Black Swan. She works with a lot of the 4-stars in the game, like Sompo, Gwenifin. They used to focus a lot around DOT earlier on. Into Honkai Star Rail, they don't really do that anymore with 4-stars because they just don't give any 4-stars at all. But not to mention, she's kind of mom, but my consensus on Kafka is pull her if you're a simp. Pull her if you have either Black Swan or a new character who we're going to talk about in a second. Don't pull her if you don't have either of those two characters. They're really the only way to make Kafka good and viable in the current game modes. Oh my gosh, TV. But nonetheless, let's talk about the character that Kafka's really good with, because I think I kind of want to pair these two. The reason you might want to pull Kafka is because of the new queen coming out, Hysilens. She is the fish queen, mermaid, some sort of aquatic animal, but she's really pretty looking. She has scales. She has an aquatic belly, but alongside that, she's also really powerful with DOT. She is the latest DOT unit in the game and is basically revived DOT all on her own alongside the buffs. The buffs helped as well. Of course, Kafka got a buff as well, but we should already know that. Now, what does Hysilens do? She is going to enhance DOT. She's going to give additional DOT in the form of extra physical DOT damage. She can also apply random DOTs with her talent. Her skill and ultimate also apply DOTs as well. Basically, everything she does is DOT based. She enhances all the damage you do on the enemy with one of her talent or skill abilities. I can't quite remember. But she also creates a little field around you, which you might see after this ult. There's like a little fish field around the enemies. And inside that field, you deal additional physical DOT damage, which is super cool. And basically, the whole thing for her is you can either pull her because, one, she's gorgeous, or two, because you really want to pair her with other DOT units, which would be super valuable. You can see her best in slot team there at the bottom. If you have that team, then I would probably pull Hysilens because your account's going to be pretty cracked if you can get that team with her. But nonetheless, you can see all the DOT she applies there, man. She applies a frick ton of DOT. You can also enter battle with this little bubble state, which kind of like controls the enemy and makes it flow towards it and it won't attack you, which is kind of cool. It's not as crazy as some of the other talent abilities like Finons, for example, but it's still cool. But anyways, you can see all the DOT she does there at the start. That's basically all her, which is kind of crazy. She is the DOT revival. And if you want somebody to pair alongside a Kafka that you have or a Black Swan that you have, she's really valuable. Now, I will say I would probably only ever pull this character if I had Kafka. If you do not have Kafka, I would not pull Hysilens and vice versa. It's not that she can't work without Kafka. She just becomes a lot better with Kafka being able to activate the DOTs that she applies, even though she does do a lot of DOT on her own. Without Kafka, it's going to be really hard to say how good she is. But for right now, I would only recommend pulling Kafka alongside her. But potentially, if she's a super powerful unit and in the early stages of the beta, she proves to be kind of crazy, then maybe you could use her on just some Black Swan teams or maybe something with Gwynaifin and Sampo. Who knows? But for right now, I'd only recommend her with Kafka at this point from what we've seen from her. And that is my recommendation for all the DOT characters. We made it through all the Nihility ones. There's a triple Nihility, and then there was one Harmony coming out next update, and it is not the greatest Harmony in the old game. It's one which, from what I've seen from a community perspective, people are generally pretty disappointed by her, which kind of surprised me. She has some beautiful animations. Cerydra is the name. She plays chess pieces. She's a queen, and she destroys your enemies through buffing other characters because she is a Wind Harmony character. Now, the interesting thing about Cerydra is that both her ultimate and her basic basically do nothing. Now, basics aren't that shocking, but the weird thing is usually ultimates on Harmony characters do something like regen energy, give a crit damage buff, skill point regeneration, something like that. But basically, her ultimate is just a big hit of damage from what I've heard, at least in this showcase right here. They just describe it as a big hit of damage. They don't really say anything else about the ultimate, so that's all we really know about it right now. Maybe they'll introduce a buff alongside it, but it's hard to really tell right now. But getting into the core of what she does, she basically can allow your units to do additional skills. So, for example, Anoxa would usually do 2 skills, now he does 4. Finon would usually do 1 skill, now he does 2. Now, you do have to build this up over time. She's going to give the little support buff to one of your units. Then you're going to have to build up the points on their head by doing skills and basic attacks. But once you do enough skills or enough basic attacks, then you're able to do your double skill. Now, this is particularly good with who they're showcasing, which is first Finon and then Anoxa. If you're a main DPS and Exacris main, you're going to absolutely love this. If you want a more powerful Finon than you already have, you're probably going to like this as well. Now, I've tried to think of other characters that this would be good with. Archer might be a little finicky. Argenti, I just don't see it. Firefly, you need Super Break. Herta, I feel like it could potentially be good with Herta, but I feel like Herta just has other better supports. Plus, you already need an Erudition and a healer, so I don't know about her and Herta. That might be finicky too. Aglia uses basic attacks. Acheron, no, she uses ults. Fei Zhao mainly uses ults. There's just not a ton of characters this is good with from what I can deduce on the character list here. Jade obviously makes no sense. Castris, there's just better supports for her. Same thing with My Day. There's just better supports. But If you are pulling for Cerydra, I would recommend either having a Phynon or an Anaxa. If you do not have one of those two units, she loses a lot of her value. So I think really try to prepare it around what you already have. The biggest tips you can give in Huda pulls is just try to fill in the spots that you're missing. If you have a Phynon and you don't necessarily have the greatest supports for him, like you're missing a Sparkle or a Sunday, then a Cerydra is a good pickup. If you really love a Noxa and you're not using him as a Herda support and instead of main DPS, and you want supporters for him, then she's a really good option. But if you're not trying to fill any of those roles and you already have a Sparkle, a Sunday, and all these other Harmony units, you already have a Robin, then she loses a lot of value in picking her up. In fact, there's almost no reason to pick her up if you already have Robin, Tribby, and all the good Harmony units, because generally compared to them, she doesn't have nearly as much value in terms of damage, in terms of buffs, and in Sparkle's case, in terms of swag. But nonetheless, still a very pretty unit, and if you just want to pull her for fun, because you like her, nothing wrong with that. I always like to reiterate at the end of these Huda pull videos, at the end of the day, this is a for fun game, and you can play the game however you want to play it. Don't let me or anybody else tell you how to do your pulls. You are the only person who can decide that. But if you're really interested in the meta and you're having a hard time deciding, I hope this video helped you a little bit. If it did, I really appreciate it if you leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new. But anyways, that's going to be all for me. And I'm going to see you all in the next one. Peace.